Welcome back to microeconomics class. So in this class, we'll be solving a question on equilibrium of a perfectly competitive firm. Here is the question. The question says, the diagram below shows the revenues, costs, and output of a firm in a perfect market. We are asked to study the diagram and answer the questions that follow it. Here is the diagram. So we have cost and price in dollar on the y-axis, while on the x-axis we have output in kilogram. Then we have our demand curve, which is horizontal here. So it's equivalent to average revenue curve and also marginal revenue curve. So we have output level here, 5, 15, 20, 30. So we have prices and cost here. So the question says, determine the equilibrium price and quantity. Then B, calculate the profit at the equivalent level of output. So let's do this question. It's very simple. Solution. So whenever you see a question on equilibrium of a firm, the first thing you need to recall is the equilibrium condition of a firm. Don't forget the equilibrium condition of a firm, equilibrium condition of a firm in any market, okay? But here, let's be specific, the firm in a perfect competition. Competition is defined as MC equals MR. MC equals MR. So, since we know the equilibrium condition here, so we go back to our diagram and look for MC curve and MR curve, and we check where they intersect. Wherever they intersect, that is where they are equal. This is our MC curve, and this is our MR curve. You will see that MC curve is this and MR curve is this. This is where they meet. Since this is where they meet, it means this is where we have the intersection. This is the equilibrium. So in other words, the equilibrium quantity will be equals to the corresponding output level. Look at this, if I trace it down, so I have 20. So 20 is my, this 20 kg is the equilibrium level of output, that equilibrium quantity. So what about equilibrium price? Equilibrium price. So equilibrium price will be the corresponding price. Look at here, this is the equilibrium. So I will trace it to the price axis here. This is the price axis here. We have price along the y-axis. I have $20 there. So my equilibrium price is $20. Can you see? Then the next question says, calculate the profit at the equilibrium. So don't forget, profit of a firm, this denotes the profit pie, is equals to total revenue minus total cost. Now, also recall that total revenue is equals to price multiplied by quantity, which is the same thing as saying average revenue times Q. Why? Because average revenue is the same thing as price. Okay, you know, in the equilibrium, what the price in the equilibrium? Our price is $20 multiplied by quantity in the equilibrium. The quantity in equilibrium is 20 kg. So I'm going to write 20. Okay, so what is the answer? I have 400. Also, total cost. Total cost is defined as average cost multiplied by Q. So how do I determine my average cost? So it's somewhat tricky, but it's very simple. Just take note of this. You know, this is equilibrium point, and you trace it down, you have equilibrium output, then you have equilibrium price here. So as you are tracing it down, you'll be checking where this dotted line, this line touches AC curve. You can see it touches AC curve here. Then wherever it touches AC curve, at that level of equilibrium, So you trace it, not trace it to the cost axis here. We are tracing to the cost axis here. I find $10. So this represents my average cost at this level of output. So in other words, I have 10 multiplied by equivalent output, which is 20. Then this is equals to $200. You can see. Now, in other words, the profit is not equals to total revenue. What is total revenue? 400 minus total cost, which is $200. Then $400 minus $200, so I have $200 as the profit. Here is the final answer. Don't forget to share the video, like and comment. Thank you. See you in the next video.